Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Whistle Radio. We're in the Hockey Talk studios, and I'm your host, Mike Humphreys, on Hockey Talk, CIWS 102.7 Whistle Radio. You can check us out on the web at whistleradio.ca, the home and the voice of your Stouffville Spirit Junior A Hockey Club. Our special guest again today, Mr. Bob Baun. How are you doing this morning, Bob?
Great, thanks. Michael, I'm just doing fantastic.
We've come to your home here, and we've got you up nice and early, and we're on our third interview. Everything's going okay, though?
Yep, no.
We're not tricking you with any funny questions, right?
The hat trick will be all over, I guess.
Yeah. That is true. That is true. So, Bob, we've talked about many things and some quite interesting things, and I think we're in about the early 70s. And you've had some family setbacks. You've lost your father, your mother, and you've broken your neck. So that must have been a real life-changing experience, which we just kind of hit on just near the end of the last interview. And I just wondered if you wanted some more to share with that.
Well, it's I guess when you're ready to retire after 17 years, or the average age is much younger.
Yes.
And so I had a pretty good run at it, but I always wanted 21, and that was my goal of playing 21 years, and we didn't make it. But anyways, that was there was no looking back at that. There was no ifs, ands, or buts whether I was going to retire, and I had lots of preparation. I found out that I had a brain in 1966. I went to Wayne State University and to General Motors Management School, and that was fascinating. And to find out that I did have this thing in my head that did work, and I had lots of preparation at what I might do, and I think that was also the key, that I just wasn't out in the street, and knew, really had some idea where I was going to go. And of course, with the farming, that's what I was doing at that time. And we were a pretty special farm to this part of Canada, and we farmed about 2,000 acres altogether.
Wow.
And we owned a lot of property around that new airport in Pickering, and which ended up causing us nothing but problems.
Yeah.
And that so that was sort of the start of 7 years. It was like a 7-year itch. You have they say it goes in cycles, and we had 7 years of not a very much fun cycle in the Baun family. And so we started over again in about 76, 77. And I ended up, had two opportunities. They're both from the U.S. They were having Mr. Transmission. I was going to become a distributor of Mr. Transmission franchises in southeastern United States. And the second one was bringing Aflac into Canada. You know the goose?
Oh, yeah.
Aflac? In 1978, my lawyer, Jim Blaney, who was part of the original group that Al used to work with, and Eagleson. And so anyways, Jim Blaney suggested I have a look at this company down in Columbus, Georgia. So I went to Columbus, Georgia, and met some very nice people, and I couldn't believe what happened then. I had 5 years of going to university, really, and I ended up going to the Wharton School of Business and Harvard Business School, and we started working on when we brought Aflac into Canada, and that was anybody had ever told me I'd be in the insurance business, I would have said they're crazy. I hated insurance people with a passion, and here I become one of them. But anyways, I became very passionate about it. I could understand it, It was a simple, very simple, basic policy. It was cancer insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So the Canadian government was scared to death of us. But now they're one of the largest insurance companies in the world.
Yes.
And have done very well. So, anyways, that was the change, and then it's gone on from there, and got back on our feet, and then we ended up. A lot of people say, "Well, how did you do all these things?" Well, uh, I don't know how you do all these things other than you do what you have to do, and life moves on, and it's been a wonderful ride, and the different things that we've done, and the people we've met, and I've met 3 presidents of the United States.
Wow.
I've spoken, and I've done over 6,000 personal appearances in my lifetime, and talked with some of the great speakers, Norman Vincent Peale to, I just can't. I'll probably have a senior moment now, but
Now you're doing one of those, Bob.
yeah, no, I'm due for one right now. But anyways, I've always enjoyed that end of it. That I'm able to go out and meet people, and I still do, and I really feel bad when I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you worry. I say you start to worry a little bit about that, but Johnny Bauer says not to worry, and John's still doing a good job of going out, and I guess we both don't know the word no, and we still enjoy people. So, and that's the key. You can't tell stories about that. And
right.
So we're we followed hockey. We started after Aflac. We had to sell to a Canadian firm. We tried to put a deal together on that, and my old friends from Charlie Burns, who was on the board of directors of the Maple Leafs back in the old days, they ended up buying Aflac out, and my $6 million didn't mean anything at that time. So he doubled it, so it was all over. So
yeah.
So then we kicked around on a few other things, and then but did very well with them. I went to Reed Stenhouse, another big general insurance company, and then we got Tim Horton Donut Shop.
Yes.
And we had the #1 Tim Hortons in the country for 5 years at White's Road and #2 Highway, and that was a incredible learning curve. And I had to learn to bake donuts. My wife wouldn't learn. And so anyways, but it was a special little store at 1,600 square feet, and we had over 2,000 people a day go through that store. It was just quite incredible, and Ron Joyce couldn't believe that this little store would do that. And,
right.
So it was it was just special. Again, it was all people, and we had a wonderful staff, and
a lot of people to run one of those stores, isn't it?
oh, well, we had 3 stores. We ended up with 3, and if things were changing again, and we either had to get in by more stores, or we just were too old when we started it. I think it, and yet John, a bunch of my friends that are still in the business, and I think John Hoey out in Mississauga has like 40 or 50 stores.
Oh, wow.
I'm never sure how many he's got, but it doesn't matter. Even if he's got 30, he's more than.
Yeah.
And Danny Murphy, who started the year before I did down in PEI, I know more about Danny, where Danny's at these days, but Danny's Mr. PEI. He's got 7 hotels he's got 40 Tim Hortons and 10 or 12 Wendy's. So,
Wow.
but anyways,
What do you think Tim would think of all this?
oh, I think
He was a real entrepreneur, wasn't he? He was really trying to find his niche.
yeah, no, we were two peas in a pod, and then when Dickie Moore came from Montreal, we were the three Pied Pipers, drive each other nuts, but you know, we just great conversations, and Dickie Moore was so colonial that he started out with Dairy Queens, and he used to tell his manager, "I know you're going to steal, but," he says, "I'm going to give you 2 pails." He says, "1 pail's mine and 1 pail's yours. So you just make sure mine's filled first, and then you can."
Well, you can't do that today, can
No,
you?
you can't. But anyways, when you think of some of the stories that used to go back and forth, it was quite amazing.
What's your favorite memorable hockey moment?
My favorite memorable hockey moment.
I mean, for all of us, it's when you obviously have you've won 4 Stanley Cups and.
Well, it's when I scored the goal on the broken leg. Is probably the hot spot, but what afforded me I call my biggest moment was probably having lunch with President Eisenhower on the 10th tee at the Augusta National.
Okay.
So
wow.
How's that?
Yeah, that's a topper.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
Yeah, no, and I did that in 1962, and it was pretty special, and it was.
Remember what you shot that day?
Oh, I didn't care. No, he was just a real gentleman, and he was playing in front of us. We knew that, of course, and because he had all the security around him,
Yeah.
and so he stopped up and he says, "How would you like to join us for lunch?" He says, "We're going to have a little lunch there, and then we'll finish the backside." So we said, "Well, that'd be very nice." So
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Wow, that'd be quite an experience. Go home and tell Sally that one, right?
Yeah, no. Well, there's a longer story after that. So, but anyways, that was what I call my big moment in sport, I think that was my. Between that, I guess we did a show with Kurt Gowdy, and he used to do talk shows, and for the archives in the Smithsonian, we did the '64 Stanley Cup, and they took to Los Angeles. We took, I think there was Gordy, Alex Delvecchio, Bill Gadsby, and Sid Abel, and then we took Punch, and I think George Armstrong went, and two more guys went, and we all went down to Los Angeles, and we did this little talk show on that goal.
Oh yeah.
And so it was, and if you Googled it, you can get it out of the Smithsonian. Yeah, no, it's supposed to be really quite good. I'm not that good on the computer thing, but anyways, it's something that you could look up, and but at the same time, Jersey Joe Walcott, and Joe Louis were doing their big fight from 51-52.
Oh right, okay.
and for the world championship, and of course Joe Louis should have lost. Mm-hmm. But he won the decision because he was the champion.
Right.
And but listening to those two bicker back and forth, it was really quite
worth the entertainment value.
Yeah, no. So, but some of your fans probably wonder who the hell I'm talking about with those.
Oh no, we got some real keen people that listen, and a
yeah,
lot of the
yeah, no,
older
well,
people who would remember all those names.
yeah, but it's that's what is so interesting about what the time period of when we um, played the game. That how many people and the variance of ages. And there's a gal that lives in Stouffville. Her name is Heather Melvin.
Okay.
And I don't know if she's still there or not, but she worked.
I haven't heard the name myself, but that
No,
doesn't mean.
no, it doesn't.
You know.
But she worked for Sun Microsystems, and we did a lot of stuff for Sun Microsystems, and and her mother wouldn't go to the hospital the night I scored that winning goal in Detroit till the goal was scored and Heather was born.
Oh wow!
So, anyways, it was a great story, and I'm talking right in Stouffville, and your old friend Bobby McNeil had lots of stories too about.
Yeah, well, Bob just passed.
I know,
Yeah.
What a dear friend he was, and
Yeah. No, Jess, it's been a little while now. I know his son Tim and his daughter Cindy quite well.
Yeah.
You know, they're quite involved with sports and things in Stouffville. So yeah, I'm quite aware of them. And we actually had did a moment of silence at the game and letters to the editor. And obviously, the funeral was huge in town, and he was a real ambassador for the game and the arena. And that's where I knew him. I didn't know him outside of that, and there was a whole life again outside of that.
Yeah, no, and he was a great little hockey player.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he skate like the wind.
Tough, eh?
No, he was a good hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So when if you think back in Stouffville, and I often do, and we just went to a big dairy farm, and two of your best bets in the country are right out of Stouffville. Dennis O'Connor and his brother Terry.
Okay.
And they had a small animal and big animal.
Yes.
Excuse me, Sally. They were just those years that we were in the farming business were just incredible what they did to help us and in the farming business. And just this week, we went to see their mom and dad's old dairy farm.
Okay.
And Sally and I went through, and they milk 24 hours a day there. This new system.
Is that the one where the cows just go in when they're full and ready to be?
Yeah. And they're just
amazing,
just like a merry-go-round.
I saw it on one of those history shows or whatever they were doing, talking about the evolution of it all. It was amazing. Sit back and just count the money now.
Oh, well, I'm not quite sure it's that way.
I'm sure it isn't either.
No, but anyways, they had a dreadful fire there. But I'm just saying that's when you think of what makes an impact on your life is these different people and things that are from your area in Stouffville. And I always said, Stouffville always seemed to have special people live in that area. If you just go a little bit south of that, Harvey Brown, and his son now is a dear friend, Ray Brown, and Ray is just a sweetheart, just like his dad was a sweetheart, and his mom, and you probably know them too.
Oh yeah, very well.
And but they're just the nicest people, and you know of some of the heartache that they've had over their lifetime. So, but anyways, when you come in here, Mike, and spend some time, and we talked about a lot of things here, and you mentioned one question, and I'm trying to think of who it would be, but I would say my parents and Sally's parents.
Okay. Well,
Would-
I'll ask the question because people don't know that because
Right.
it wasn't on the radio at the time.
No.
But what it was one of the last questions I always ask all my guests is if you have an opportunity to sit down and have dinner with somebody from past history or whatever,
Right.
and it can be anybody, any walk of life, somebody maybe not necessarily you knew or whatever,
Right. No.
and people have picked all types of
Right.
different
No.
situations. So you're saying you'd like to sit down with your wife, obviously,
Yeah.
and your in-laws and your parents.
Right. No.
Yeah. And there would be a little red wine going in that meal, do you think?
Oh, there'd be something, but my dad didn't drink, and
Oh no.
and my mom wasn't she'd have a glass of wine, but and Sally's mom and dad were pretty much the same way.
Yeah.
And but Sally and I would probably be the leaders of the party, but or say Bob was
Yes.
the leader. But no, I just think that it would be nice to just be with them again, just to talk about all the things that you'd like to,
How it's changed and what's
how
going
it's
on,
changed,
things that
and
go
how
forward.
you brought up 5 children and how they've
Worked
sort
out.
of carried on the whatever, and you can see so much of it,
Mhm.
and that's when I always said to our kids, when you look at their friends or their parents, it's birds of a feather will flock together,
Yes.
generally speaking.
Yes.
And I'm just saying, if you're looking at prospective wives or husbands, look at the other parents, and what you see is what you're going to get,
Yes.
and that it's not going to change far.
No.
It might be 45-55 or
Mhm.
60-40, whatever. But I'm just saying, you're going to see traits in that person
Yes.
of those two that made that little person.
Mhm.
And I really, I'm going to stand on that. And I watched these cows the other day, and we watched 3 calves being born.
Mhm.
And when you see them, and they know what animals they're coming out of,
Mhm.
and when you see that herd, you can see all the same good traits from the bulls that they're, and the females are all progeny of those other animals that sort of grown up in that herd.
Yeah.
And very, very strong, and that's why it's one of the best dairy farms in the world.
Right.
And that's why they can sell their semen for so much.
Yeah.
That's all those.
That's quite a big business.
Yeah,
Quite a big
no.
business.
So but it's no different than we see the same sort of thing happening within the hockey world. That the little people that have an opportunity that they're athletic or their parents have been athletic are going to stand more of a chance to play the game
Mhm.
of whatever game. But again, what we're saying is you don't just have to play hockey.
No. That's right.
To be a somebody. You can.
No. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
as you get older, and that's what I'm seeing. I look and see what some of the players, and Jean-Paul Parise that playing in Minnesota.
Yeah.
His grandpa was playing in Oakland
Mhm.
the year that Sally and I were there, and he was just a kid.
Yeah.
The grandpa.
Yeah.
when we were there, and
What was it like playing down there in comparison to obviously in Toronto? The winter's starting to go now. We're starting to get the weather, the cold weather, and everything.
well,
Down there, I mean, you get a suntan in the afternoon.
Oh yeah,
Happy
no.
night.
Well, Sally and I we'd close all the drapes and everything, put the fireplace on, and make it feel like it was wintertime. That was crazy. Finally, we just say to hell with it and go sit outside in the patio and watch the sun go down over. We overlooked the whole San Francisco Bay and
Oh, yeah.
Oakland area,
Wow.
We were on that ridge of hills just on the.
Now, what kind of fan base did they have?
It was tough. I did a lot of appearances out there, and it was very tough. And of course, Bert Olmsted, who I forgot more about hockey than most guys knew, and he had a nervous breakdown by Christmas time.
Yeah.
And it was just because of the attitude. You know, when the first expansion took place, 50% of your team or more was all minor leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bert said, I can understand them making a mistake 2 or 3 times, but he says it's the 4th, 5th, and 6th that gets me. And I said, Bert, that's trying to just change, because after practice, they'd hit the pub,
Yeah.
at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They'd be there till supper time, and then they'd take a 12-pack or 6-pack home with them to watch Johnny Carson. So
You get up and do it all over again.
And do it all over again. So it was getting around that minor league mental,
Mm-hmm.
because you just can't play this game. In the way, if you want to win championships or you want to win, you can't be on the edge. You gotta be there.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be good. If you're not good, you're not. I'd say you get away with one night, maybe,
sure.
but generally speaking, you're not going to get away with it.
Right.
And that's the guys I think of that tried to get away with it, and did it for a while. But by the time they were finished, they were basket cases.
Yeah.
Derek Sanderson was probably as good an example as any of them.
Right.
But anyways, Bobby says he's really straightened around and doing good. So
very good.
So
very good. What was one of your biggest disappointments as far as your career, your hockey career?
I don't think I can really say you like to say I'd like to have been a goal scorer.
Mm-hmm. You got the one big goal. That's like,
yeah. Oh no.
If
well,
you look back,
but
I think you had a whole career.
But if there was probably a disappointment, I'd like people to think I was a pretty good hockey player as a defensive, or know me more, or know more about my defensive play.
Mm-hmm.
If that was the case, I get upset about. The only thing I really get uptight about is what happened about our pension plan and the sort of the inside stuff, and that bothers me of what has happened or what hasn't happened. That it should have been fixed up and done properly,
Mm-hmm.
and it never has. And if it doesn't happen now, it's going to be too late anyways for most of, I say, the older guys. But the pension has never been fixed up like baseball, football, and basketball.
And you know what? And I would think today they probably have the money to do that. Right?
Well, the whole story is it's a marketing exercise. They sell us the old guys anyways. They make money off us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a big deal, and they've piecemealed a little bit together, but it's still not like the other major sports that
Mm-hmm.
they've just brought the pensions right up to snuff, and the wives are included in the pension. So if something happens to you, the wife gets the pension. So,
Mm-hmm.
but in hockey, we haven't done that, both from the players' side, the National Hockey League Players Association, or the National Hockey League. They put they just put a small amount of money into it, and everybody gets this little, I call it stiffing, but don't expect it. It can
Yeah.
be cut off anytime. So,
Yeah.
so it's not a.
When you go down to the ACC now, are you able to get in to see a game, or do you have to get?
We have an alumni box. They do a nice job with it, and
Yeah.
And all the people are still wonderful. Like they're all the old ushers and stuff, and there's still a lot of them there, and I just love them all. But I miss being able to go where in the old days I was well connected with all the upper brass, so I didn't. I never worried about it. I could park inside the gardens, or I could, but initially I could park inside ACC, but now I don't have the wherewithal to get by those guards now.
Right. Yeah.
But in the old days, it was like a big family.
Yeah.
That if you were on the inside track, you could get there.
Right.
But that's part of growing, and
For sure.
and I can understand that. But I like all. I like everything but the noise at the ACC.
And you mentioned in our first interview George Kitchen.
Yes.
Was he of the Kitchen family that was Lansing
No.
lumber?
No.
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 I just
Yeah.
that name
Yeah,
clicked
no.
my
No,
memory, and I thought, I wonder if that was it. That's all.
Yeah. No. I knew that family too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Did you? No.
Now, when was the last time you put the blades on and played hockey?
No. I can't. I know where the last game I played was in St. John's, Newfoundland, and that was. I played maybe a period and a half out there, and some young guy was being a little smart and taking runs at our forwards when this was a charity game.
Mm-hmm.
I suggested he take a run at me. So anyways, he came down with his head down, and I came across from nowhere, and he was out cold as a mackerel. and everybody in St. John's was booing me. So I went in and took my stuff off, and I said, "That's it."
That's too bad.
No.
Well, I know I understand the passion towards the game, and you don't want to get into an alumni game and do one of those in an alumni game.
No, well, we did one game in New York, and it was great, and we had that Larry Zeidel was always after Gordy.
Oh yeah.
And if he had kept going, we just told the coach, what was his name, Freddie Sherrill.
Yeah.
We said to Fred, "You better tell Zeidel just to undress," because I said Gord's at the end. He ain't going to take any more, and I said, "You better just undress him," and they did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was a masochist, he just wanted to be beat up by him. And
Yeah.
that's my figuring about Zeidel, that he, as soon as he put skates on and put a hockey stick in his hand, he's a different man.
Yeah.
And that, off the ice, you would love him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know a few people like that.
Oh, yeah.
They get a little carried away about the game.
Yeah, no.
Do you remember a goaltender who played with the Marlies back early 50s, Don Lockhart?
Yeah, I know.
Did you know him?
Lockhart's not well, but yeah.
Well, he was a good friend of George Armstrong's.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Don's son actually lives in Stouffville.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was one of those players that nicest guy in the
Yeah.
world, would do
Yeah.
anything for you,
Yeah.
Like you put some skates on him and you get him out there. Now, he wasn't a goalie like his dad,
No.
but he definitely was a
he
tough,
changed. Yeah.
tough guy on the ice.
Yeah. No, they changed.
Yeah,
well,
'cause he got into the men's league and decided, I can't play
Yeah.
this way.
No.
I have to play my way.
Right. Yeah.
And
no.
he's one of those guys that
Yeah.
like that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, they're still around.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Another guy I'd like to mention to you is Jimmy Ty.
Jimmy Ty.
Did you know Jimmy Ty? He was a scout with the Leafs.
No, I didn't.
Probably back I would think probably more the late 60s, early 70s. He scouted Sittler for them and brought him into the organization back in, I guess that would have been the 70s.
Yeah,
right? The early
no, because
70s,
I played with it was in
Yeah.
Toronto when I came back to Toronto.
Yeah.
When I came back out of Detroit,
Mhm.
I came back. That was my last 2 years.
Mhm.
Or actually, in the book, it's 73 is my last year.
Mhm.
But I got hurt in 72.
Now there's quite a story with the book you wrote, Lowering the Boom. I understand, is it right after it was released? That the company...
Yeah, Stoddard went bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a shame because we know that there was well over 10,000 copies sold.
Wow.
So it could have been the bestseller in Canada at that time, but we just it's just been I got a new publisher called General Stores Publishing House, and they're out of New York. But this little company that this big company bought them out in Renfrew. And the guy now heads up marketing for this big company out of New York. And anyways, he's republishing and going electronically on it, and that could be fun.
Yeah.
If it kicks off and they're
Now, how long ago did you write that book, and how long would it have taken you to do?
It took 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, it was like going to confession every day. Every Tuesday it was like this here.
Yeah.
Just Ann Logan did the same thing as you did. She'd have questions
Yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
and then she'd tape it and take notes as we were going, and then we had probably one of the first ones to get a decent contract. We got a bunch of money up front, which was unusual, and so when where was I going with this?
In reference to the books,
Yeah.
you were saying you got some money up front.
Yeah, no. So, anyways, they wanted everything put in first person.
Oh, okay.
So I had to really rewrite the book myself. I'm not very good at doing the I type thing, and so it took me a long time to redo the book.
Now that you look back on the book, which has been a few years, is there some things that you felt you should have put in the book that you didn't get into it?
Well, we're thinking about doing another one.
Updating it and adding
Or
some
doing
things.
another one.
Oh yeah, very good.
No, and I'd like to do another one, only of just about all the things that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
That's a good little format of what I'd like to do for Ann Logan, who wrote the book. You know, to do the same sort of format as this here.
Yes.
You know, and just have questions and
Answer
start.
everything's being
But
changed.
I'd like to do because I'm very good at short sentences and just saying what I want to talk about, and then let me talk on
Very good.
about what I have to say about that. Like there's a lot about the Players Association that I'm interested in. A lot about the Players Alumni Association I'm interested in, and what they're doing and what they're not doing. You know, where they could help. You know, and it's all communications. That's the key. It's like trying to tell your story here, or my story, on your little radio station. That makes it interesting for an average Joe to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why our book did, I think, so well, because it depicts a period of time. That's what we wanted.
Sure.
I said that's what I wanted, was to depict the period of time from 1940 3.
Mhm.
You know, when I started skating till 1972, or when I quit playing, and then after that,
Right.
you know, right up to 2000.
Mhm.
So it was a period of time that we're depicting, but I think there's a lot that didn't go in from, say, 1982 or 84, when we went into the Tim Horton donut business.
Right.
But there's still a lot of stuff out in the peripheral in the hockey that is interesting enough, of what people all want to know, what we think about why expansion is the way it's gone. You know, who has controlled it, who hasn't controlled it. About start with John Ziegler, or maybe a little bit prior to that, Clarence Campbell, and then John Ziegler, and then Bettman. And then the first good article I've seen on Bettman was this past weekend
Oh yeah.
in the Globe. I don't know if you saw it.
No, I did not.
But it's worth picking up.
Yeah.
Good article in Bettman, and his thinking of where he's taking
The
the
NHL.
NHL.
Mhm.
So it's you know, it's an interesting, you know, the longevity of this game is you know, it's going to be there, whether and it's not all going to be right. It's going to be, the old story is, you still make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what and Bettman admitted to that. You know,
Yeah.
you still make mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Bob, you know what? I can't say enough about you allowing me to chat with you and listen to your great stories. And I thank you very much for your time. And one more question for you. When you go out for dinner with friends, do people still recognize you?
Oh,
Pretty well everywhere you go?
I think so. No, very much. And the only way I can relate to those stories is I went to Bangkok, and I think that it was the epitome of. I arrived in this wonderful hotel in Bangkok, and the manager of the hotel comes out and he says, "Welcome, Bob. Come on into my office and see your pictures." He was from Saskatchewan.
Oh, really?
Imagine being in Bangkok. The second one was in the Loews Hotel in Monte Carlo in France.
Wow.
And Sally and I arrived there, and we were just whipped.
Yeah.
We just flew the night
Yeah.
before, so Sally goes up to the room, and I go to the bar, and I'm gonna have a drink before I go to have a snooze. So, anyways, I go down to the bar, and I got my hand leaning on my elbow, and the guy, "Oh, Bob," he says, what would you like to drink? I looked up, and here he was from a little pub in Oakland, California.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, anyways,
Well, all over the world.
yeah, no. So, anyways, that's what I'm saying. It's amazing what your life brings you, and when you do, and you know, and the friends and the people that you meet and associate with, and as I say, when you meet 3 presidents of the United States, and of course my first job, I never even told you about this and that. That's even more fun. It was Lester B. Pearson.
Yeah.
When Keith Davey was retired from Foster Hewitt. And it's a whole story in itself, that became the Rainmaker. Well, my job was to look after Lester B. and keep out of Keith's hair
Oh.
while he's organizing the Liberal Party for the election.
Oh, okay.
So I used to go as a kid, at 21 years old, down to the Royal York and spend 3 or 4 hours with Lester B. And all we do is talk about the Maple Leafs and the New York Yankees. So, anyways, you know, that's the type of memories that when you spend 3 or 4 hours with a guy like Lester B. and he comes right down to your wavelength, and you sit there and talk like this.
Yeah.
This, face to face, eye to eye.
Yeah.
And that's so exciting, that he can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't think about those things.
Yeah.
I met Stephen Harper, one day, and we happen to know Steve's also Carl Burr's wife, former wife,
Mm-hmm.
Marilyn, is a cousin of Stephen.
Oh, really?
So anyways, we were out doing the thing for Brian McFarlane out in Clarington, and Steve Harper recognizes little Baun,
Yeah.
one of my grandsons. He says, "Oh, you must be related to Bobby Baun." and Christian turns around and says, "Papa." So, anyways, but isn't it? But that's what I'm saying. Life is like, and when you make the contacts and the friends. Another great one was in Newfoundland. I'm going to do a show in Newfoundland, St. John's, and it was called Through the Fog. And this kid wanted to do an interview like this here, and I was doing my hearing awareness program across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm waiting outside to go into the studio to do the show, and standing there, and this guy comes out of the studio. He says, "I hate you." And I look at him. And I didn't. And he looks at me again. He says, "I hate you." And he looks really miserable. Then he comes over and sticks his hand out. He says, "Hi, Bob." He says, "I'm Danny Williams. I've always been upset with you since you scored that goal against Detroit." And he says, "Our Newfoundlanders, Alex Faulkner, was there." and so, but it was a great story, 'cause he was so serious, and he says, "You come into Newfoundland again, you make sure you call me, we'll have lunch together." He says, "I'd just love to have lunch with you."
Yeah. You know what, Bob, this is great. And I know you've got many stories, and I know people are always knocking on your door to lend a hand. And as you said earlier, you don't really say no.
No. No, my wife is going to tell me to say no sometime.
Yeah. Sometime soon?
No, I don't think so. No.
Well, once again, sir, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
And we'll maybe have you back on.
Yeah.
You never know.
No.
Okay. Thanks very much, Bob.
Okay.
Enjoy your day.
Yep. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it, Mike. Bye.